We believe that the COVID-19 is representing a global challenge that it hits all the countries in the world. Qatar has been one of these countries which been hit by the virus, but since the beginning, when it started to spread close to the region, we took a lot of steps and measures in order to make sure that our population are safe. If you will look at the fatality rate in Qatar, it has been the lowest around the world. And yesterday, His Highness the Emir was participating at the conference which was hosted by the UK Prime Minister for raising funds for Gavi, and His Highness announced the contribution of the state of Qatar by $20 million US.
How much has the world failed in terms of coming together to deal with this crisis? We have seen countries around the world dealing with it on a national level. There hasn't been a gathering of the G20. There hasn't been a gathering of any large group of nations. This is a huge failure by the world, is it not?
Well, from our perspective, His Highness has mentioned in his speech yesterday at the conference yesterday that countries are between two choices. Both of them are better, either closing down and making sure that our people are safe and our economy will be affected badly, or we open up the country and making sure that the economy is sustaining and we're putting the lives of our people at risks. Both options might be right and might be wrong, but without collaboration and exchange of experience and dialogue, we believe that we cannot adopt a model and learn from each other.
Is it not inevitable now that the World Cup in 2022 will have to be delayed because of coronavirus?
Well, first of all, the projects of the World Cup almost at 90% completion right now, and we hope by the end of this year or mid of 2021, all the projects will be completed. We believe that Qatar is working very closely and very strongly with different healthcare organizations to make sure to deliver healthy and safe World Cup. And we believe that it is part of the cure for the world to be back together in a happy manner, and coming here, we will be able to welcome them here in Doha during the World Cup games, and we believe that the entire world needs such an event for their emotional treatment after this global challenge that all of us we face. And we will make sure to deliver the best ever World Cup with a healthy and safe environment.
Have you had to look at changing the design of any of the stadiums? Have you had to look at perhaps the idea of social distancing in order to keep the World Cup plans as they are?
Well, there is an ongoing exercise on the organizing committee with different stakeholders to make sure that all the health and safety standards are applied in all our stadiums. So it's still something ongoing, and once it's clear for all of us, I'm sure that we are going to put it out publicly.
Well, that brings us neatly on to talk about the blockade, which I know is something that you want to talk about. Clearly, 3 years on, it is ongoing. Within your region, you are isolated as a consequence of this blockade. You are not regionally talking to your partners on coronavirus or on many other things. That must be a huge problem.
This crisis has been manufactured from the beginning, and unfortunately we still didn't see any acknowledgement by the blockading state that this crisis is manufactured, and they are still repeating the same stereotype. What we hope for, we hope that one day everyone realizes that there are more regional and global challenges that we are facing together that makes us in need to talk to each other and to support each other and to stand with each other. COVID-19 represented one of the recent challenges that not our country only facing, but also the entire world is facing.
What is the key to breaking the blockade? Donald Trump the American president, appears to have tried a number of times to intervene. What's the key?
Well, we appreciate the efforts of the Emir of Kuwait and the United States and President Trump trying to resolve this issue, but Until now, they are faced with the stubbornness of the blockading states. We hope that one day they will realize that it's all needless, and we need to come back to reason and to come back to our senses and resolve the issue in a civilized way. And Qatar has stated its position from the beginning, whether publicly or privately, with our allies in the United States or with our brothers and neighbors in Kuwait, that Qatar is willing to engage in a serious dialogue that based on a mutual respect and respecting of the sovereignty and the international law. Unfortunately, we didn't see any of the efforts going so far until now, but we hope that the recent efforts by both by United States and by the state of Kuwait will yield into something positive for our people.
One of the concerns that the blockading states had was your relationship with Iran. And I want to talk a bit about that. The Emir of Qatar was in Tehran, I think the day after Qasem Soleimani was assassinated by the Americans. Qatar appears to be trying to act as a broker between Iran and the West. Where do you see the Iranian situation 6 months since the assassination of Qasem Soleimani?
Let me just state it very clear. Iran is our neighbor. Whether we agree or we disagree with them, they are a country that we are going to live with this year, next year, and forever. So we need to find a peaceful solution if there is any conflict between Iran and the region. Second, when the blockade started, Iran is one of the countries that stood with Qatar very clearly and opened their airspace for us, opened their seaports for us, and they supported us, and Qatar and the Qatari people highly appreciating such a step. In the time of need, you need the friends to stand with you, and Iran proved that they stood with us and with the Qatari people. And this, despite the disagreement in policies that we have with Iran, and we have been having these disagreements for a long time. I mean, in Syria, in Iraq, in Yemen, if you will look at the policies of Qatar and the policies of Iran, has been totally different. After the killing of Qasem Soleimani, the next day I was there in Iran. I was there in a scheduled visit to the foreign minister of Iran, and we wanted to seize the opportunity to calm down the tension, because the tension who has been fueled, unfortunately, by countries in our region is going to fire the entire region, and the entire region is going to pay for it, and we cannot afford it. But we are still in a very dangerous situation, and we want to see a final resolution between Iran and the United States, and Iran and the other GCC countries.
And do you see yourself as a broker, a potential broker between Iran and the United States?
We cannot be a broker unless we are asked by both parties, but Iran is our neighbor and the United States is our strongest ally. If we are asked and accepted by both parties, we will be willing to help, but we are preferring to work together with other countries who are like-minded and helping them in order to de-escalate the situation and calming down this tension.
I want to talk about Palestine, the annexation plan that Israel is proposing. But can I first ask you about Israeli-Qatar relations? There is, for many months, years now, there's been a suggestion that there is a rapprochement taking place between Israel and the Gulf states. How do you see your relationship with the Israelis?
Well, when we saw a window of peace back in the 90s, we were one of the first countries, or even the first country in the Gulf, to take the first step toward having a relation with the Israelis, and we opened the trade mission, the Israeli trade mission here in Doha. But unfortunately, the Israeli behavior showed us year after year they were not serious about peace. And we hope that these threats of taking decision of annexation are not real, because we believe it's going to represent as the last bullet in the peace process between the Israeli and the Palestinian. And we want them to come back to the table and directly engage face to face. There is an Arab Peace Initiative on the table that all the Arab countries are agreeing to, and agreeing to have a normalization if the Israelis are willing to withdraw from the occupied territories and having an independent sovereign state of Palestine with the capital of Jerusalem, Eastern Jerusalem, at the borders of 1967.